Wisconsin Eye's 2014 election coverage is brought to you by the Wisconsin Hospital Association. For over 90 years, a valued voice for Wisconsin hospitals, supporting high-quality, high-value care in communities like yours.
Wisconsin Eye is at the Brown County Library in Green Bay interviewing candidates in the 2014 elections. We're interviewing Steve Gillespie. He's from Appleton. He's a Republican running in the 55th Assembly District. Steve, welcome to Wisconsin Eye.
Thank you, Steve.
And
glad to be here.
Just a note, Wisconsin Eye appreciates the support of the Wisconsin Hospital Association, which represents more than 139 hospitals and health systems, for making these candidate interviews possible. Steve, on your website, you established this as a goal. You want to lead the nation in K-12 reforms. Let's talk about what changes you'd like to see, sir.
Yeah, thank you. And I think Wisconsin should be a leader. We've got a proud heritage of leadership. We were back in 1848, 1854, excuse me, we were the only state in the nation to defy the Fugitive Slave Act. That was the same year our state had the proud honor of founding the anti-slavery party, the Republican Party, in Ripon. Yeah. And we've gone on to do a number of things first. And we were the first to ratify women's right to vote, first to run a kindergarten class, on and on and on. And
first progressive income tax, but go ahead, it's your interview.
I mean, and it's little things like that are not little, but we were the first to, believe it or not, to number our highways, you know, with odd ones one way and or even ones one way, odd ones another way.
But you want to change our schools. How?
Well, here's the deal. We have been a leader in education for a long time, and 25 years ago when we launched the Milwaukee School Choice Experiment, it was a really bold action at the time. And we led the nation in reform there, and we've had many wonderful things that have come out of that. We've got thousands of very satisfied families that are very happy they've gotten that freedom in that experiment. And well, so I think it's an opportunity for us to bring that kind of freedom and liberty as we're talking now, you know, this next budget about the possibility of removing the caps on the voucher program. We have an opportunity to talk about how we move forward, not only bring freedom of choice to families for education, but how do we do that and create an environment where teachers can be paid well, give them the freedom to innovate, and really lead the nation in education
So
reform.
You want to remove that 1,000 cap on choice outside the cities of Milwaukee and Racine, don't you?
Yeah, I think that competition brings excellence if we fund it well. If we don't move into the voucher program, I think that's a discussion we have to have is are we going to be careful to not use vouchers as a reason to reduce our funding for education? I think we've got
another big issue in the Capitol, and you know it, is Common Core. Your position on Common Core standards, sir?
Thank you for asking. And of course, it's gotten a lot of interest, not just in Wisconsin, but across the country. Those that favor Common Core favor some good objectives. They want to raise the standards for education, and they also want to create some uniformity so that if a student leaves a classroom in one city and goes to another city or even another state, they have the opportunity to step into a program of instruction that's going to be somewhat similar, so that there's not a lot of catch-up or not a lot of loss in that transition. The big challenge with Common Core is that it has been rolled out in a way that creates a tremendous loss of local control, which has been a hallmark of education in the United States since its inception, and has been something we've jealously guarded in Wisconsin for years. One of the reasons we've been able to innovate in education is because we have the freedom to do that, because we have local control. So Common Core had no input from Wisconsin teachers and parents in developing the standards, and we've got no control over those standards going forward in terms of what they'll become, how they might change. And that's significant. I think that if we're going to have standards, they've got to be something that Wisconsin teachers are intimately involved with developing. And so I'm actually, on my website, I've actually rolled out a creative win-win solution that I think protects local control, and I think gives those who favor Common Core and those who are concerned about the loss of local control the opportunity to come together in the right place to dialogue on that. And I think that's a decision that should be made locally in each school district. I don't think that we should be having to drive to Madison to try and get listened to by a committee or that we should be, even the solution that's been proposed is one that would move the authority for setting standards for Common Core from the DPI superintendent to a broader committee that would have more influence from a group appointed by the governor.
Right.
I think that's a good move. I'd support that. But I think even better would be for us to reaffirm that local schools already have the authority to make a local decision. We see that because Germantown has opted out of Common Core. They're the one school district in the state that's not going to follow the Common Core standards.
And Superintendent Evers says that's an example of how local school boards can opt out.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's something we need to reaffirm, because there are a lot, I believe, a lot of superintendents, a lot of teachers, a lot of parents that don't realize that they can deal with that on a local level.
Let's back up a bit. Give me 1 minute of your bio and what you've been doing in your career. I should have asked that first.
No, that's right. No, that's right.
I was so anxious to talk about K-12.
Sure. Thank you. I had an opportunity to grow up at the Rawhide Boys Ranch. It was a real unique experience as a child. My parents, John and Jan Gillespie, founded Rawhide and graduated from a great high school in New London, went to the University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh, crammed a 2-year program into 3 years and got a wonderful liberal studies degree, and then met a gal from Menasha, Susan Gregg. Got married. She and I went back to Rawhide. We were house parents, and I ran the vehicle donation program there and helped found the high school, Star Academy. Star Academy, I'm very proud of, has gone on to become the first voucher school outside southeast Wisconsin. And today they partner with New London High School in providing instruction to at-risk students. Fabulous example of private and public schools coming together to put what's best for students first. Went from there to spend 14 years fighting for small business owners with the National Federation of Independent Business. Amazing.
Were you based in Wisconsin or Washington?
Based first in Wisconsin and then later in the state of Florida. In Wisconsin, I worked as a membership recruiter, called on 5 small business owners a day, 25 a week, 1,000 a year. Every conversation about the legislation and regulation impacting their business and their ability to create jobs. I did well. Out of 600 membership recruiters nationally, I was the #1 recruiter my first year with the company. Went on into management, took a sales team that was 33 out of 33, and in 2 years took it to #1. Passionately sold the story of free enterprise and attracted others to the cause.
Do you hold any local office, or have you run for anything before?
I have not. This is my first attempt for office, as it is for all those involved in the Republican primary in this race.
Okay. Let's talk some issues. Let's talk health care. Let's start with Governor Walker and the leaders of the Senate and Assembly told the federal government, we know you'll say you'll pay to expand MA health care benefits. Thanks, but no thanks. Wise or unwise choice?
Well, very wise choice. Very, very mature adult decision. The federal government right now is borrowing 40 cents of every dollar it spends. They're offering to pay for something with money they don't have. What they're doing is coming to our grandchildren and signing a note without our knowledge, obligating them to pay for money they're giving us. There's no way they can continue funding that.
Okay.
And anybody, I think, who looks at that from a mature standpoint realizes that we just have to look past our nose and the short-term benefit of what we get this year to what that's going to mean a couple, 3 years from now.
Transportation. The bridge problem here in Green Bay illustrated the larger issue. There's a projected $650 million deficit in the State Department of Transportation budget in the next 2-year budget. Do we delay highway projects? Do we raise taxes? How do you fill the gap, sir?
That's a very good question, and it's got to be faced. I don't know the budgetary fix to that. One of the things I know is that we do have to, at the same time, deal with part of what's brought us to this problem, and that's the fact that transportation funds have been raided by previous administrations, spent on other things. That happens way too often in government, where money's taken from us for one purpose and then spent somewhere else when we're not looking. We need to lock those funds up so that new monies we put in to fix the problem now don't find their way out of the barrel and drift into other programs.
You don't sound like you're ready to raise the gas tax or what you and I pay for our license plates?
No, I think raising taxes is the last solution, because government doesn't have an income problem, it's got a spending problem. And I don't have yet the experience and the time invested in looking at the overall budget to be able to say to you what I would suggest the fix is. But I would say I would look long and hard before any tax increase would be suggested.
It's so timely, I'm asking all candidates about this. Your reaction to Judge Crabtre's reaction on same-sex marriage, sir?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. And I think it's something that that folks on either side feel passionately about and deserve a straightforward answer from those that are seeking office. I think on one hand, I think this question always gets asked on two different perspectives, and I think we've got to remember them both at the same time. On one hand, all of us knows someone, probably all of us, I certainly do, who's a wonderful person, who's a friend, who happens to be gay, and the last thing in the world is that I want to do is infringe their ability to pursue happiness. I mean, that's an inalienable right that Republicans are proud to defend because we believe in inalienable rights. Right. On the other hand, when it comes to marriage, I don't think at its core, at its essence, marriage is essentially about happiness. Now, I've been married for 35 years. Do you suppose my wife will end up watching this?
She'll be watching this.
Let me explain.
Okay.
At its core, in the definition of marriage, is wrapped in inextricably the idea that it's about something more than just two people's personal happiness. It's about an institution that creates and nurtures the next generation. We all know examples where that pattern hadn't been a great thing. I mean, Rawhide Boys Ranch was I had hundreds of teenage boys that were involved in the program, lived, with my parents in their home, that came from homes that were going through struggles, and there are times folks have challenges, right? And that's not always the best pattern. It's just most of the time the best pattern. So when society says that we want to define marriage as a union between a man and a woman, what we're saying at the core of that is that we think it's the best way to provide an environment that's going to provide the most help to children in growing up. Because when you create something, you're the most often willing to sacrifice everything you have to nurture it. We've got a painting in our house that it's painting of a farmhouse. It's really not all that special. My father may be watching this, and now I'll have a problem too, because the reason it's special to our family is my grandmother painted it. Okay. But no one else would know that. But because we were involved in creating it, it has, it's precious to us. We're going to lose that principle, and it's not going to help society if we change the definition of marriage. So I think we need to preserve and honor and respect everyone's right to pursue happiness, but I don't think we have to redefine marriage to honor that.
Okay, new subject. Two candidates for Attorney General say first offense drunken driving should be a crime. Your position?
I think it's a good question. I know we made changes, recent legislatures made changes to strengthen our drunk driving laws. I don't think that necessarily means we've made all the changes we need to make. I don't have a position on that yet. It's definitely something I'll research if I'm elected, and it's something I care about. I think we need to have I think we need to be very tough.
Another issue that's being debated in Washington and Madison, calls to raise the minimum wage. Your position on that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And it's certainly something over 14 years with the NFIB I've had time to think long and hard about. When you walk into any fast food restaurant and you see 5 teenagers working diligently up at the counter, and you think to yourself, what's going to happen if we tell the owner of that restaurant that he's got to increase the wage for each of those teenagers by $1 an hour? What's going to happen is the middle manager standing behind those teenagers trying to keep that all running, who's worked hard to try and work their way into the middle class, is going to get a $5 an hour reduction in pay. We can't move people into the middle class by increasing the minimum wage. In fact, what we do is we pull people back out of the middle class when we raise the minimum wage. What we've got to do is focus on reducing the amount of money that government wastes and leave more of it in the economy for us so that it can be invested in good jobs, so all of us have an opportunity to climb upward.
We're almost out of time, but I have 2 quick questions. Any other key issues to your campaign that I haven't asked you about?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking about that. So the thing I would suggest that differentiates me from the other candidates is my 14 years of experience with the NFIB, and how that translates is the ability to bring specific solutions to the table as opposed to talking in generalities about what I'd suggest. And that'll give me an ability to lead when it gets to Madison. Another example of something that I'll push, and when we were talking about Common Core before, I will propose a joint resolution in Madison that would affirm what we know is true, the right of every local school district to make a local decision about Common Core. I think there's a lot of confusion about that. I think a resolution would help solidify that. When it comes to regulation, the state of Florida has a law that any new regulation proposed by a bureaucracy that impacts the state with a financial impact of $5 million or more has to be approved by the legislature. Our legislatures create bureaucracies like parents that have children and send them off and never supervise them. And it shouldn't be. And I will propose, I'll be a champion for that bill that would bring some oversight to regulation in the state. It's those kind of specifics that I'll bring with a real-world experience of thousands of stories that have helped me see where legislation really impacts the economy.
Thank you. So Steve Gillespie of Appleton is a Republican running in the 55th Assembly District. The primary is August 12th. Steve, thanks for visiting with Wisconsin Eye.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.